Hey, so I want to make a new video going over the current state of Endgame Juicing, why I currently feel like it's just in a bad state, why I'm not happy with it. If you watch my streams, I'm just not liking the current Endgame. So I made this text document here just going over the reasons why I don't like it. I want to explain it all in this video. So yeah, it's pretty much just gonna be a rambling video and that's it, but I really hope GG does do something. I don't know if there's something in this patch, but hopefully at least next patch. So yeah, 3.24 endgame issues, tier 16 juicing. So this is just applying to like normal endgame juicing in tier 16s of what we had for like the past like whatever 5 or so years. Not talking about tier 17s or sanctum. I think tier 17s are actually in a pretty good spot now with the new patch. But yeah, just tier 16 map juicing and why it's just in a really bad state. So yeah. Overall, the game is in a worse state for endgame for juicing compared to the previous 3 leagues, so stuff like Tota, Crucible, Sanctum, Scourge League, Sentinel, Ritual, etc. Right? Rituals was 3 years ago. All these leagues just had not just better juicing, but it was also just more fun, in my opinion. I just want to make this a statement. This has nothing to do with Affliction. I'm not comparing this league to Affliction at all. I've had a lot of people say like, oh, you compare this league to Affliction, and like, oh yeah, of course it feels worse than Affliction. I'm saying this, it has nothing to do with Affliction. I did not care for Affliction. I don't want Affliction to go core. I'm comparing this to previous leagues. Like Tota didn't have an in-map league mechanic, and this league feels worse than Tota for in-map juicing. And this also isn't just about MF. I'm talking about the overall endgame. Juicing just feels worse. While I do think it's cool we have a new endgame in tier 17s, a lot of people just don't want a boss, as tier 17s just essentially boss rushing right now. So yeah, this is not just MF, it's just overall endgame juicing, So what are the core issues here? Scarabs are too rare. You had to buy some Scarabs one at a time, which is very tedious or just not worth it, especially as a solo player. Want to point out, this was simply never an issue with old wing Scarabs. Even for a lot of elevated Scarabs, you can easily bulk buy. But with the new Scarab system, it is an issue. In the interview, they did say Scarabs were going to be plentiful. They were going to be generous with Scarab drop rates. And, unfortunately, that just wasn't true. Because now we're in a state where Scarabs are more rare than they were in the past. Which, yeah, doesn't really feel correct. To give you some examples here, we can go to trade. And you can see if you want to bulk buy Teaching Scarab Creation, one of the high end game juicing Scarabs, it's 2.2 divines each. And if only 4 people have it, I'll refresh it. Yes, only 4 people. If you want to buy Divination Scarab Completion, it's 9.2 divines each. One person actually does have 23 of them. That's pretty surprising. Usually you have to buy these one of each if you actually want to buy it. But yeah, outside of that, yeah, everyone else is just simply 1 stack. So yeah, outside of this guy, you have to buy this like 1 at a time. And this is a Scarab you don't even buy for solo. This is purely a group player Scarab because of how rare it is and how expensive it is. It's, that's 9.2 divines per a map. You could probably make profit with this as a solo player, but it will take, dozens of maps to see that average, and spending 9.2 divines map to essentially gamble just isn't really going to be worth it. So yeah, it's just not looking good with how rare these Scarabs are. And these aren't only Scarabs, right? There's other Scarabs. I can show my Scarab tab real quick. I've sold this plenty of times before, so another one is Horn Scarabs, / skills here. Essentially 770,000 monster kills, and I've only seen 2 Horn Scarabs. I sold both of them, of course, but yeah, 2 Horn Scarabs is 770,000. And I understand these are supposed to be the rare Scarabs, but why are these like 20 times more rare than like old wing Scarabs? I don't really understand that point, especially when these, quote unquote new wing Scarabs are also more rare than the old wing Scarabs as well. So yeah, overall the Scarabs are just very, very rare outside of like essentially the rusted and like some of the polish, I would say. Pretty much every rusted is very, very common, which is nice, but if you want to do more high-end juicing, yeah, it's all just rare. But yeah, that's what I meant. Second point, the Scarab rework is overall just a negative to the game. You're forced into a single league mechanic. Exception is like Delhi Beyond because it's pretty easy and pretty free to add onto your map device, especially when they're right next to each other. In past leagues, it was overall just more fun to add multiple league mechanics together. That's just gone because it's better to stack Scarabs. So also with the new Scarab rework, you can add multiple Scarabs of the same type in the map device, which you couldn't do before, meaning you're just stuck into one strategy now. Like if you're doing Legion, you're doing something like this, right? Like and this is your strat. And if you're adding breach into this strat, let's say, or any other league mechanic, it's just complete trolling, because it's way more efficient to do something like this for Legion, because all these scarabs essentially multiply off each other. So this scarab right here essentially gives you 10 more rares in each Legion. So why wouldn't you just add more Legions, right? And this is true pretty much for like every single scarab combination. Think of like, let's say, Harbinger. If you're doing Harbinger, you're only going to use 4 Harbinger scarabs, and then any other scarab is just completely a waste. Like, you're essentially wasting your time in any other scarab. This is why, in my opinion, the scarab rework is just really bad for the game and just a negative, because now you're just forced into a single league mechanic. Maybe some people like that. Maybe that's what GG wants to take the game. But personally, at least in my opinion, I think it's just worse for the game. I've always had the most fun in this game when I was adding like a ton of different league mechanics into the map. Like when I'm adding like Breach plus Legion plus Abyss plus Alva. Think of like Scourge League, right? Where you did all of that. That was like really, really fun for me. And unfortunately, in this new patch, or just in the new base game, that just will never be a thing unless you rework scarabs, because there's no point of adding all these different mechanics to your map when you just want to use one scarab to multiply all your mechanics, or multiply the same mechanic. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. The TLDR is just there's no point of using other scarabs or league mechanics, because they make the scarabs multiply off each other. Yeah. I also want to say, adding more scarab slots does not fix that. If they, let's say they add 2 more scarab slots, so you have 6 instead of 4, you just go from using 4 Harvey scarabs to 6. So if you had 6, scarab slots, well, you then just use 4 Harbinger scarabs, and then like 2 other Harbinger scarabs, right? So more scarab slots does not fix this, unless they add like a stupid amount, like 10 or 12, which I don't think they would do. So not only does endgame juice feel really bad, but we currently have an in-game league mechanic that adds monster quant, meaning once this league goes away, and let's say next league's an automatic league mechanic, something similar to Tota or Sanctum, the game's going to feel really, really bad with the current endgame, because we're losing monster quant from the map. So I just want to point this out, that keep in mind, this current endgame juicing that we have right now is with an in-map league mechanic. So once this goes away, it's going to be even worse. And point out right here, if you could buy the rare scarabs, the current endgame juicing is just bad. So the current highest profit endgame juicing that you could do, if scarabs are available, would just be pure Divination card farming, resulting in essentially turning hundreds upon hundreds of Divination cards after a few hours. I did this on stream, and you just have to turn in so many Divination cards, and it's just honestly just not fun. And if you do want a high-end juice, this is going to be your gameplay now. This is probably like the worst high-end juicing experience I've had, like I said, for like the past 3 years. It's not fun to turn in hundreds and hundreds of Divination cards. Of course, you could say just don't do that, and sure, but I played this game for high-end juicing, and currently this is the high-end juicing strat, and it's just really just not that fun. I'm not sure why they made it this way. And also, this point right here, you drop nothing else because you use 3 to 4 Divination scarabs, as I was just complaining about right before. Since the scarabs all multiply off each other, if you're unsure how Divination scarabs work, the basic one multiplies with the gilded one, which multiplies with the winged one. So since all the Divination scarabs multiply off each other, you want to use all 3, or at least 2 as a solo player. So use 2 rusted and 1 gilded. Meaning you don't have any other scarab slot for moiling mechanics. So you're essentially entering a basic map with like Delhi and beyond, and some, spawn chance of like Blight or something, right? It's a pretty empty map compared to what we had in previous leagues. This is why, I'm also going back to why the scarab change is bad. So yeah. My big complaint is Divination Scarab of Curation. So this is definitely my overall biggest complaint here. The whole reason why this scarab was made in the first place is so we wouldn't feel forced to run the same map because it had the best div cards. Then I want to say, this is what GGG said. They pointed this out in the interview. They added this so we wouldn't have to run the same map all the time. You wouldn't feel forced to run like Cemetery or, Crimson Temple because it had the best division cards. But it's so stupidly rare that it's pretty much only available to group players. As I showed you earlier, it was like 2.2 divines each. So we're stuck farming the same best maps as before because 99.9% of players just simply cannot access the scarab. Yeah, this is just a very big complaint of mine because, like I said, the whole point this Divination Scarab was added is so we wouldn't have to farm the same map. If you're unsure what this does, I guess I should show real quick to give you the text. 10% more divination cards found in areas per different favorite map. Divination card drops in areas are replaced by those of your favorite maps. So essentially, this allows you to run any map in the game and still drop the best divination cards, which sounds so fun and like, you know, really great for endgame juicing. But like I said, they made it so rare that, yeah, it's pretty much only available to group players. You can do this as a solo player. I do want to say it is profitable, but it's just not fun gameplay to buy these one at a time. And then of course, after a few hours, you have to turn in hundreds of divination cards. It's a really tedious process and just a lot less fun than previous methods. Yeah. And last thing, I think overall this match is pretty bad compared to what we had in the previous leagues. You know, for example, I think Nemesis 3 was way more fun, despite the clicking. Fractured Mapping was really fun. I think a lot of people can agree on that. It was just a really fun endgame. 100% Deli with Scourge League. So Fractured Mapping was also 100% Deli, but 100% Deli Scourge League was a little bit different. You didn't do Fractured Mapping, use it on Deli Orbs, add max amount of lead mechanics into your map, you know. And even like Enraged, Strongbox, Crimson Temple was more fun because at least we had Strongboxes. Now, we just have the basic mobs of the map and nothing else because we have to use 3 Divination Scarabs. So yeah, that's the whole video. You know, leave a comment what you think, what, you know, whatever. I just wanted to make this video of why I'm currently unhappy with the current endgame juicing. And I know some people might say the availability might become better in the next few days, few weeks, and I just disagree. Previous leagues always had a lot of scarabs available on essentially Sunday or Monday, and it's now Wednesday of the league, and the availability still hasn't changed. So if it still hasn't changed almost a week into the league, I don't see it changing for the rest of the league. Anyway, you know, that's the video.